Estamos ao vivo. Boa noite a todos. Mais uma live. Espero que esteja tudo bem com vocês aí. Iniciei rapidão a live. Faltam 9 minutos e 40 para o lançamento de um Falcon 9 brabão aqui. Missão Starlink. Iniciei a live, bater um papo e assistir um lançamento de foguete. Deixa eu até olhar aqui da SpaceX. Você vai ter aquela live deles no X. Deixa eu ver aqui. Começa daqui a 3 minutos a live no X. Essa live desses caras, eles resolveram fazer a live lá no X, agora tá com baixa qualidade, sei lá por quê. Lucas, Anderson, chegando ali, Alexandro, muito boa noite a todos. Não esqueça de deixar um like aí pra fortalecer, galera. Galera, esquece o like, galera. Não esquece o like não, galera. Dá um like aí pra fortalecer, poxa. Lembrando que QR Code na tela ou fixado no chat. Quem quiser mandar um pix para ajudar o trabalho com a mensagem na live. Que eu acho que hoje vai funcionar. Mas se não funcionar, não se preocupe. Eu tô com a tela aberta aqui e eu leio a mensagem. E dá pra mandar áudio também. Aliás, deixa eu ver se o do Fabrício Aguiar vai funcionar se eu der play aqui. Pera aí. Pra gente ver qual é aqui. Funcionou. Vamos ver. Fala, Luciano. Tomara que dê certo.
Now T-minus 7 minutes, 40 seconds and counting.
Rafael Ramos ali também.
As we enter into the last handful of minutes here, let's go ahead and talk about the launch timeline after the Falcon 9 lifts off. The T0 liftoff, still targeting 7:20 tonight, as SpaceX is already in the fueling process. They are committed to going for that attempt.
Galera, não esquece o like aí para fortalecer o trabalho.
For some reason they do need to call
Preciso da ajuda de vocês com
stand down and
mínimo
look at the
like,
24-hour turnaround. But again, assuming they are able to lift off in just a little over 7 minutes, then at T plus 1 minute 12 seconds, the rocket would pass through the greatest point of aerodynamic pressure, otherwise known as max Q.
6 minutos para o lançamento. Acho que começou lá
T
no...
plus 2 minutes 26 seconds, that's when the 9 Merlin engines will cease firing. First stage main engine cutoff, otherwise known as MECO. 3 seconds later, first and second stages will separate. Followed up at T plus 2 minutes 35 seconds for second stage engine ignition SES-1, when that Merlin vacuum engine will come to life. T plus 3 minutes 5 seconds, the payload fairings will jettison away from the second stage, exposing the 23 Starlink satellites to the vacuum of space for the first time. At T plus 6 minutes 12 seconds, the first stage entry burn ignition will begin.
Linha do tempo de lançamento, o que vai acontecer ao longo do tempo.
Hopefully we'll be able to see that on one of our tracking cameras. We'll keep an eye out for that. At T plus 8 minutes and 5 seconds, the first stage landing burn will begin. That's unfortunately a little bit too far out for our cameras to see, but we'll get onboard views from SpaceX. At T plus 8 minutes 26 seconds, the first stage landing will happen. Followed up at T plus 8 minutes 39 seconds, when the Merlin vacuum engine will cut off for SECO-1, and it'll go into a coast phase. It'll stay in that coast phase until T plus 54 minutes 9 seconds, when the engine will reignite for just a quick 2-second burn, setting up for Starlink deployment at T plus 1 hour, 5 minutes, 38 seconds. As it stands, we are T plus 5 minutes, 14 seconds and counting to the liftoff of this Starlink mission. As we enter into the final 5 minutes, I want to thank one of our new channel members, Barbara
Por que essa pergunta?
Bazemore
Tem monte ainda, cara.
Apologies, Barbara, if I mispronounced your name, but thank you so much for joining us at the pad leader level. Barbara, like our other channel members, now has access to 4K live views of this and other launches from the Cape, both Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, as well as member-only videos and discounts at our online shop, shop.spaceflightnow.com. Also want to thank Wayne Martin for a very generous $30 super chat. Thank you so much, Wayne, for supporting us at that level.
Agradecendo lá o superchat lá na live. Lá. O cara tava agradecendo o superchat aqui. $30.
T-minus 4 minutes, 17
Fala, Hime, qual é o
seconds
objetivo desse
counting.
lançamento?
Wanna
Mais
quickly
batch
show you
de
a little bit of a celestial view.
satélites
This
Starlink
is the planet
da internet,
Jupiter, of course.
da SpaceX.
Those little two dots that are right above the planet, just to the upper right, those are two of
O
Jupiter's
Júpiter, como é que
moons,
tá ali, hein? Eles estão filmando o
Ganymede
Júpiter
and
também.
Io. To the bottom left, you're looking at Europa. Again, NASA is going to be sending the Europa Clipper spacecraft to explore Europa next October. Top right, you see the moon Callisto. Now T-minus 3 minutes, 44 seconds and counting.
Ainda não começou a live dos caras lá no X, não. Não, começou assim. Ah, hoje a qualidade parece que tá melhor, hein? Aqui. Ah, agora a qualidade tá melhor, pô. Que isso. Agora tá brabo.
Now less than 3 minutes to liftoff.
Se consigo ajeitar negócio aqui, peraí.
Stage 1 lock float is
Just a
complete.
quick bit of housekeeping. You'll notice our countdown clock is a little bit ahead of what you see on SpaceX's time at the bottom of your
Stage
screen.
1 lock float is
Deixa eu ajeitar o
Clock
CGI
is
aqui.
in real time here. The SpaceX time is on a little bit of a delay, but you see those clamp arms open and the transporter erector now pulled away from the Falcon 9 rocket there in position
Deixa assim.
to support liftoff in less than 2.5 minutes.
Fala, Rogério da Silva. Hoje eu tô melhor sim, cara. Ontem já tinha dado uma melhorada, mas hoje eu já voltei a ficar ok já.
Stage 2 lock float
Ah,
is
Now,
portanto,
let's
complete.
satélite
see
órbita não vai
liftoff,
atrapalhar
T-minus
futuros
1 minute,
lançamentos
50
daqui a alguns
seconds
anos?
and
Não.
counting.
Ih, piorou a qualidade.
Appreciate
Stage
the
2
more
lock
than
float is
30,000 of
complete.
you who are joining us live. And we'll come back and read those super chats a little bit after liftoff.
Não pode
Know
elogiar,
that
cara.
I am seeing those, and I will acknowledge them in just a little bit here. Now less than a minute and a half to lift off.
Ground gas close up.
As we approach the final minute of the count, T-minus 1 minute, the Falcon 9's flight
Ground gas
computers
close
will
up.
take control. Stages 1 and 2 will pressurize for flight.
Minuto pro lançamento, hein, galera.
Now less than 1 minute.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
E aí, qual câmera eu deixo? A dos caras aqui estão melhor que a da SpaceX, pô.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
To call the vehicles and startup.
Go
You
for
should
launch.
hear the launch director give the go for launch in just a few seconds.
Essa daqui tá mais... Essa
Now
daqui tá
T-minus
mais...
33 seconds and counting.
Go for launch.
Ai, deram go for
And you hear the call from the launch director. We are go for launch.
30 seconds.
Now coming up in 20 seconds.
Galera, não
Keeping an
esquece
eye
o
on
like
the
aí pra
countdown.
fortalecer.
This is the point at which the mission
15
scrubbed
seconds.
yesterday. So
Aí,
the
10
count
segundos aí, galera. Agora vai, hein?
press forward as we are now 7,
10,
6,
9,
5,
8,
4,
7,
3,
6,
2,
5,
1.
4,
Ignition.
3,
Foi!
2,
And liftoff.
O áudio é abaixo, o áudio duplicado porque tá na live do SpaceX, tá atrasado. Agora foi, galera! Mais um lançamento! Será que agora a internet Starlink vai ser boa? Os caras já me ferraram já. Tava pensando em comprar, os caras me ferraram na live do Eclipse. Eu tô com minha dúvida agora se eu compro ou não, essa porcaria.
Here at the press site, let's listen in.
Olha lá. Canudão subindo.
Now T plus 48 seconds and counting. This tracking view we're seeing from our own Adam Bernstein. Now 1 minute into flight.
Não, Paves. Hoje não foi scrub.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
At this point, the Falcon 9 is approaching, traveling faster than the speed of sound.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
Here, you hear that call out?
É, galera, tem 90 pessoas assistindo e 57 likes. Pô, fortalece aí, galera. Esse like é importante pra gente.
Some great tracking views from Adam there in the field. And T plus 1 minute 30 seconds and counting.
Handback chill has started. Handback chill has started.
Ah, bonitão. Mais um lançamento pra conta. E rapaz, agora mais de 5.000 satélites Starlink que teremos. Tecnicamente é um meteoro? Sim.
Seconds and counting. We're approaching main engine cutoff or MECO, getting some great tracking.
Tu falou hoje. Não, é mesmo. Não é zoeira não, é isso mesmo.
Cutoff.
Main engine
Followed by
cutoff.
stage separation.
Meteoro ou fenômeno riscando no céu.
Momentarily.
Tecnicamente é um meteoro.
Main engine cutoff. MVAC
There you see
ignition.
it. Now T plus 2 minutes, 45 seconds and counting.
Aí, ó.
You might be able to
Soltou o
see the
primeiro
reflection
estágio.
of the payload
Back
fairings
ignition.
as they fall away in just a few moments. Those two boxes on the right-hand side of your screen are from the SpaceX feed on a little bit of a delay there. That's why you're seeing it slightly behind our live pictures there on the left-hand side of your screen. A little bit of a jellyfish effect we're seeing this evening. And there you see those payload fairings falling away in this tracking view.
Bearing separation confirmed.
Glinting from the light of
Abriu
the Merlin vacuum
as
engine there. Maybe a
fairings.
little bit of sunlight as well.
Carenagem ali superior, né?
The sunset.
As
Not too
famosas
terribly long ago. Those
cuifas.
Starlink satellites now exposed to the vacuum of space. As we continue to follow the second stage engine burn
Both
at T
vehicles
plus
are
3
following
minutes,
nominal
42 seconds and
trajectories.
counting. The box in the upper right-hand corner of your
Both
screen, you
vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
see the hypersonic grid fins that are guiding the first stage booster, getting ready to start its entry burn. Just a little bit here. At T plus 4 minutes, 6 seconds and counting. The next milestone coming up is at T plus 6 minutes, 12 seconds when that entry burn will begin. It'll last 20 seconds or so.
Cadê as galera? Não tem, pô. Lançamento de foguete é assunto sério ou coisa de astronomia, não aparece. A galera não
These
aparece.
tracking views you're seeing right now coming to us from
Quando é um bagulho maneirinho, não tem superchat, não tem pix, não tem like, YouTube não notifica, porra nenhuma. Tem que ser react de merda na internet. Aí vem tudo. Aí dá dinheiro, aí tudo dá certo. Eu faço aqui só porque eu gosto mesmo. Eu já mostrei isso diversas vezes pra
Now
vocês.
5 minutes into flight.
Tem que arrumar treta. Treta que dá dinheiro. Falar bagulho sério, esquece.
Again, if you didn't catch what I said earlier, the reason that our count-up clock is different from SpaceX's, ours is in real time. The SpaceX clock at the bottom of the
Both
screen,
vehicles
that
continue to
is
follow
on a bit of
nominal
a
trajectories.
delay. So that's why there's discrepancy and why you were seeing some of the events happen on our tracking
Both
cameras
vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
a little bit ahead of what you're seeing in the SpaceX feed. Those are onboard views. The top right-hand box is from the first stage. The bottom is the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage. You can see a little bit of the curve of the
Vai
Earth,
pousar na balsa.
just a little bit
Of
of
course, I
sunlight
still
providing
love
an
you. Nome
accent
da
to it.
balsa.
Really nice picture there. Now 6 minutes into flight. In about 10 seconds, the first stage entry burn will begin.
Stage 1 FTS has safed.
There you go.
Olha lá, voltando,
And Pete
bonitão.
getting
Stage
some
1 FTS has safed.
great tracking views of this. We'll see it on the SpaceX view right about now.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
T plus 6 minutes, 23 seconds and counting, or excuse me, 33.
Mercenário. Mercenário não, cara. É o meu trabalho
The
mesmo,
entry burn
velho.
is now completed in real time.
Stage 1 entry burn
It'll wrap up
shutdown.
momentarily on the SpaceX feed as well.
Stage 2 FTS has safed.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
Things continue to move nominally in this flight as the first stage getting ready to make its landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions here in just a couple of minutes. That landing burn will begin at T plus 8 minutes 5 seconds, so just a little less than a minute from now.
Both vehicles continue to follow
It should
nominal
land right about
trajectories.
T plus 8 minutes 26 seconds. Unfortunately, because of how far out it
Both
is
vehicles
and
continue to follow nominal trajectories.
how low it will be on the horizon compared to where
Aí,
we
tá
are, we
vendo?
won't be able to
Qual o sentido
see
de eu
that from
assinar
our
Starlink? Os
tracking
caras não fazem
cameras
funcionar
from
nem
either
pra pousar na
Pete,
balsa.
Chuck, or Adam, but
Quem dirá uma live
we do
minha.
have the onboard views from SpaceX,
Stage one
the left-hand
transonic.
side of your screen now.
Só otário mesmo que
showing
paga
the
Starlink.
first stage. It's dark because it is in nighttime from the booster's
Stage one
perspective, of
transonic.
course.
Ainda mais no Brasil.
Right-hand side is that Merlin vacuum engine continuing on its burn.
Stage 2, terminal
Looking back
guidance.
at the pad there as we await the landing burn beginning.
Qual é, Hime? Tá chamando a galera? É, tô
Real
chamando
time
sim, é pra arrumar uma treta.
Already underway.
Pra arrumar uma tretinha, pô. Entendeu?
On the SpaceX feed, it'll come up starting in
Arrumar uma tretinha de
1
leve.
second.
Stage 1 landing burn.
There we go.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Passes prologue, the box on the right-hand side of the screen will flip
Você
to a view
aí
from the
que
drone
paga a
ship.
internet
There it goes.
Starlink, você é otário.
Stage 1
Os caras não
landing leg
fazem nem
deploy.
funcionar lá. Olha lá,
See
ó,
coming
olha
into
aqui, ó.
the
Presta atenção,
expected,
presta atenção. Olha lá,
First stage
olha lá. Ali, ó, olha lá.
and touchdown of booster
Aí.
1077 having
Viu?
made its
Stage 1
eighth
landing confirmed.
flight.
Os caras não fazem nem
Launches
funcionar
now
direito
in the
ali,
books.
meu irmão. Na balsa. E você aí pagando. Ei, ei.
MVAC shutdown. Nominal orbit insertion.
Itaipuaçu, eu acho que eu
9
já
minutes
passei
and
aí,
counting.
cara.
Hear the call for
Manda um salve pra
MVAC shutdown.
Itaipuaçu,
That
só pra
upper
dizer que a
stage
passagem de
going
ônibus
into a
aqui é
post
grátis.
phase.
Sério?
Insertion.
Sério mesmo que a passagem... Eu acho que eu já fui em Itaipuaçu. Ô, eu tô confundindo nomes.
One last quick
Paves
look at
mandou um
that
pix ali também, muito
vacuum
obrigado.
engine, which is now gonna
Ainda
remain
mais
in
agora
post
que eu
phase
vou
until
ter que
T
gastar
plus
esse dinheiro com
54
um gatinho
minutes,
aqui
9
que eu adotei.
seconds.
Não ia morrer na rua.
We'll conduct a quick 2-second burn, followed by Starlink deployment at T plus
Raim, qual a sua área de
1 hour,
atuação mesmo?
5 minutes
YouTuber.
and 38 seconds.
Essa é a minha área de atuação. Cadê? Deixa eu ver lá a live do Starlink. Ué, já acabou? Não, os caras não querem mostrar mais nada não aí. Eita, travando. Putz, aí, tá vendo? Tá vendo? Aqui, vídeo settings, nem funciona. Meu irmão, já foi melhor, hein? Os caras agora não querem saber de nada, já foi melhor isso aqui, hein? Esperando o react. React de que, Ricardo? Você quer react de que, cara? Você não é astrônomo? E desde quando a astronomia dá dinheiro no Brasil, cara? É youtuber. Eu sou youtuber.
Now T plus 11 minutes, 5 seconds and counting. As promised, let me go back and acknowledge and thank all the wonderful folks who help support our coverage with the Super Chat donations here. It's going back to just before launch. Robert Hurt with a $5 Super Chat saying, hoping for a great first launch for Riley, Jordan, and Samson. Well, certainly got a launch tonight. It all went off without a hitch following last night's scrub, so happy for the three of you that were able to see your first launch. Congratulations. SpaceX launches about every 4 days,
Falcon
so
9 tanks are
you
pressing
have the
for
opportunity
Stromberg
to see
retract.
it from here on the Space Coast. It's a good little addition to a Florida vacation.
Hime é assim mesmo, eles transmitem um lançamento e já fecham. Eu sei
Dinner
que é
for
assim.
a
Eu fui um
$10
dos
super
primeiros
chat
a fazer
donation.
a live de
Again, this
lançamento de
coming
foguete
from
do
before
YouTube.
liftoff, saying, "Let's light this
Sei como é que
candle. No
funciona.
scrubbing allowed tonight." Unfortunately, a scrub was not on the docket.
Não,
tonight.
não sou físico, sou astrônomo,
James Miranda with a
astrofísico.
$5 super chat. Thank you so much, James, saying thank you
Stromberg
so much for
retract has
posting
started.
this. Shout out to our little explorer, Anna Marcella. Mommy, Daddy, love you. Oh, that's very sweet, James. And hello, Anna. Roseanne DeVasto, one of our regulars, joining us again, saying, wow. Thanks for identifying. Nice guy. am in Port St. John, directly opposite Slick 40. Watching and feeling the roar of the engine never ceases to amaze. It's been a minute since I've seen a launch from Port St. John, but that is an excellent launch spot for a Pad 40 launch. So glad the skies were clear for you this evening, Roseanne, and thanks for supporting us. Moritz Coetzi. Apologies, Moritz, if I mispronounced your name there, but really appreciate the support. Saying shout out to Starsat Africa, and also thank
E
you
por que
guys
você não
for the
faz
stream,
vídeo sobre a sua área na
watching all the
astronomia
way
como
from South
curiosidades ou
Africa,
conteúdos
which is
introdutórios para
very
já
cool.
conteúdo no YouTube, já que você é
I know we
youtuber como
do
você falou.
have an international audience that joins us for these launches, but it's always great to hear from all the places that y'all are watching. So don't know exactly what time it is there in
Tipo
South
isso
Africa,
daqui?
but thank you for presumably either staying up late or getting up
Esse
early
aqui que você
to
quer?
join us for launch coverage. Really appreciate it, Moritz. SG, one of our regulars here on the stream, with a $10 super chat.
Esse
And
aqui
a
que você
thank
quer?
you, Cordy.
Stage one
Thanks,
lock load is
SG, for
complete.
joining us and supporting. Bob Wright with a $5 super chat with a happy hype
Vai lá.
hippo. Thank you so much,
Tá
Bob.
aí no chat, só clicar aí lá ver.
Sir Uncle Ned with a $5 super chat.
Ó,
Says,
7 horas atrás
"It's
que foi o
me
vídeo
saying
novo,
thanks
tá?
for the amazing tracking views and great stream. Providing commentary SpaceX refuses to. We're happy to step in and always provide launch views and commentary for all the missions that we were able to. And thanks to folks like Sir Uncle Ned for supporting us, as well as
KKKK, não sabia. Eu
Mark
sei que
Otto,
você
one
não
of our
sabia.
channel
Sabe por que
members
você não sabia?
who donated
Porque o que dá
Hence,
dinheiro
like,
é
now,
treta,
membership,
meu
really
irmão.
appreciate that,
Entendeu?
Otto,
O algoritmo
sharing
só
the
te
love
entrega
there.
treta, velho.
And
Aqui,
to
ó. Quer
those
ver?
of
Eu
you
tava
who
até vendo
are
aqui. Já tem
now
uma treta
new
nova pra te
channel
entrar,
members,
hein?
welcome.
Aqui, ó.
Hope you enjoy the
Caralho,
benefits of
mano,
that,
aqui.
and love to have you stick around as channel members if you're able to.
Stage 2 locks
Tava
loaded.
até olhando aqui, ó. Cansei de passar pano para o Monark. Vídeo novo lá do Mamãe Falei.
Thank you, RJ.
Na verdade, 6 dias atrás, a gente tinha assistido, não.
Eu
Vamos ver.
Eu cansei de passar pano
Vamos lá,
pro
vamos
Monark. Não foi uma, não foram duas, não foram três. Eu preparei um
Os caras tão putos, vamos ver.
Eu cansei de passar pano pro Monark. Não foi uma, não foram duas, não foram três. Eu preparei um compilado de interações públicas minhas com o Monark, tá? Pra você ver, meu irmão, que assim, eu tenho motivos pra estar cansado e pra dizer o seguinte: agora chega dessa palhaçada. A briga do final de semana, todo mundo viu.
O cara tá cansado, velho.
Né? Não é chamar de briga, mas eu vou passar rápido por isso, porque eu quero que o vídeo vá logo para o foco, que é outra coisa. Mas o Monark basicamente diz o seguinte: minha opinião do MBL é a seguinte: eles desejam poder, são muito espertos, entenderam que ninguém se cria na política sem baixar a cabeça para a oligarquia. Não vejo um plano de Brasil no MBL e sim um veículo ao poder. Dito isso, é direito deles, mas nem de longe é um movimento antissistema. Tá, que esse tweet nem foi tão problemático, tá? Eu até respondi, Monark, se você não vê plano de Brasil no MBL, cara, você ainda não entendeu nada, né? E essa tese, né, que ele fala que, não, temos que ser contra a oligarquia. O que é oligarquia, velho? A gente não bate de frente com a oligarquia, depois de tudo que a gente sofreu, mas enfim, isso o Renan já respondeu muito bem, vou deixar até o izinho aqui para você assistir o vídeo do Renan sobre isso. O problema foi no segundo tweet, quando uma menina fala o seguinte: se é poder a todo custo, por que o MBL foi contra Bolsonaro e contra Lula? Os dois líderes mais populares dos últimos 50 anos. Mandou muito bem, inclusive, essa pessoa. E o Monark responde, aí sim, de forma muito problemática: Bolsonaro rejeitou dar poder a eles. A esquerda nunca daria poder a eles. Só sobre quem verdadeiramente tem. Só sobra, sei lá, quem verdadeiramente ter poder no Brasil. Não entendi muito bem aqui o que ele quis dizer, mas aqui sim, aqui existe uma acusação, né? Que nós estaríamos simplesmente a favor do poder e a gente bateu de frente com a esquerda e com o Bolsonaro porque eles não quiseram nos dar poder. E de novo, como o Renan respondeu muito bem, nesse vídeo aqui, até vai ser um vídeo um pouco mais longo, eu vou mostrar, cara, como é difícil você ter posicionamento político no Brasil e você se manter coerente, né? Nós do MBL, nós somos muito burros mesmo, né? De termos nos mantido verdadeiros naquilo que a gente acreditava, independente dos estímulos, não é verdade? Aqui no Brasil a gente tem um baita estímulo para ser oportunista e a gente, de forma muito burra, decidiu não ser oportunista. Decidiu assim, vamos perder para defender aquilo que a gente acredita. E aí, mesmo assim, mesmo tomando porrada de tudo quanto é lado, a gente toma porrada às vezes de pessoas que eram para estar do nosso lado, né? Se não concordando com a gente, não quer concordar, beleza, mas não fazendo acusação leviana. Eu vou mostrar aqui o tipo de postura que nós tivemos com o Monark ao longo desses anos. Vou até pôr uma revista Valete aqui pro meu mouse pegar. E eu vou começar com isso daqui. Eu vou começar, tá? Em 2020, o Monark ele disse o seguinte, ele falou do Nordeste, ele falou que o Nordeste não se desenvolve porque era viciado, né, em dinheiro do Pacto Federativo. Né? Inclusive saiu matéria, olha aqui, ó. Joyce Hasselman e Monark são acusados de xenofobia por internautas após declarações sobre o Nordeste. E o que nós fizemos? O que o trouxa do Arthur fez? O trouxa do Arthur foi defender ele lá. Olha o meu tweet aí, ó. Cancelaram o Monark novamente.
Mas defendeu por quê? Porque acredita no negócio ou porque é amigo?
Dessa vez porque ele simplesmente confiou no potencial nordestino de se desenvolver sem a ajuda dos outros estados. O preconceituoso da história é quem está o cancelando. Achou que o nordestino deve viver sobre cabresto. Força Monark. Vamos pro próximo? Em fevereiro de 2022, teve o grande cancelamento do Monark, o grande mesmo, aquele que as pessoas quiseram acabar com a vida do Monark, tirar o programa dele, tirar a monetização dele, quiseram acabar com a vida do Monark. Quem foi defender ele lá em 3 vídeos?
Quiseram acabar, não. Acabaram.
O Arthur de novo. E aí eu vou mostrar mais uma vez eu defendendo o Monark. Além dos vídeos que eu fiz, tá? Tem esse tweet aqui, ó. Stalinista diariamente defendendo abertamente tortura e genocídio. Ah, que gracinha esse revolucionário. Vamos entrevistá-lo no G1 e botar uns
artigos. E aí, Hime, vídeo sobre gravidade quântica em loop é de explodir cabeças. Muito massa. Já tem um outro já sendo preparado, cara, pra acompanhar aquele lá. É tipo uma continuação.
Artistas pra apoiar. Monark bêbado falando besteira e pedindo desculpa, porque depois o Monark pediu desculpas. Absurdo, fecha o Flow Podcast. Né? Até tirei aqui VH do Ninho.
Mas o Mamãe Falei também pediu desculpa lá do bagulho do São Fácil, São Paulo.
E os BR, a gente foi lá e Monark, estão errados de tentar te cancelar por causa desse motivo. Esse vídeo aqui, ó, foi em julho de 2022. Vamos ver o que eu falei pro Monark na cara dele. Até pus um clickbait assim, chamei o Monark de burro na cara dele. Olha o que eu falo no começo do vídeo. Vou te chamar de burro na sua cara.
Mano, a gente
Todo
vai
mundo
ser o
fala assim,
primeiro.
não, Monark é burro, falando sério agora, Monark é burro, que eu até quando alguém fala, Monark é burro, eu falo, irmão, o burro criou o maior podcast do Brasil, foi cancelado por absolutamente todo mundo, que isso significa que o cara já não é burro, porque todo mundo foi pra cima dele, depois ele pegou e deu a volta por cima, e hoje ele é o maior cara do Rumble, né? Esse é o burro que vocês estão falando. Mas uma coisa que eu realmente acho que é você tem um aspecto de negação, não é burro, é de negação da sua inteligência. Não é ingenuidade. Que você não.
Não é burro, é negação da inteligência. Mano, caralho, os caras inventam os termos.
Cara ingênuo. É negar o teu papel histórico no Brasil hoje. Você tem um papel histórico que você talvez nem saiba que você tem. E eu vou te falar como isso interfere a tua luta. A sua luta é pela liberdade de expressão. Você é um cara que, claro, essa luta se abraça. Eu quero saber se você vai falar de forma tributária, mas a luta da liberdade de expressão você abraça. E a verdade é que hoje os dois líderes da pesquisa, tanto o Lula quanto o Bolsonaro, são inimigos dessa tese. Né? O Lula não precisa nem dizer, né? Já falou abertamente que ele quer regular a imprensa.
Mas tem que botar esse vídeo, que apareceu aqui de recomendação, é só isso que é recomendado.
E o Bolsonaro também, cara. O
Bolsonaro tá no Ministério da Justiça pra processar a gente que xinga ele.
Pausa aí. Mas aqui sou eu e o Kim, né, falando lá no Monark, um ponto que a gente discordava. Olha, eu não acho que o Bolsonaro está te ajudando na sua luta contra a liberdade de expressão. E ele continuou na tese dele ali, não batendo o Bolsonaro e gostando muito dos likes que estavam dando ali, né, o pessoal no Twitter e tal, quando ele falou que o Bolsonaro pelo menos isso, o Bolsonaro pelo menos aquilo.
Lucas, eu já reagi todos esses vídeos novos do Universo Astronômico antes dele postar esses vídeos.
The 151st SpaceX orbital launch from Pad 40.
Isso é só mais uma prova de que é só isso que é recomendado o tempo inteiro, velho. Eu mesmo conversei com o Universo Astronômico sobre isso.
Em agosto de 2022, o Monark se envolveu em outra polêmica, tá? Quando ele foi falar
copiar e colar o mesmo conteúdo. É impressionante, velho.
Sobre né, não pode falar aqui, mas você sabe do que eu tô falando. E eu lembro que nessa ocasião, se não me engano, acho que foi o Nando, né, algum grande influenciador, não isso foi o Nando, eu acho que foi o Nando, foi muito duro com o Monark. Foi lá e falou: Monark, como é que você defende um negócio desse?
Foi durão?
A nossa postura foi outra. Olha a diferença de postura do meu vídeo falando sobre isso. Dá play aí.
Eu depois dar minha opinião, tá bom? E depois nós vamos ver o que as pessoas falaram sobre isso. Vamos lá.
Você acha que o Siqueira era pedófilo, por exemplo?
Eu vou tentar falar em cima das palavras fortes para ver se o YouTube não me desmonetiza. Mas vamos lá.
Na CGTN.
Sabe, eu não sei. Duvidar, não duvido nada de ninguém, pra ser sincero. Eu tenho que
device called the gamma ray altimeter. We can measure the precise distance between the bottom of the vehicle and the ground. So
três taikonautas de volta para casa depois de uma missão de 5 meses.
It will ignite the full
China Space
rocket motors called the retro rocket, and the speed will turn from about 8 meters per second to 1 or 2 meters per second. So it will touch down very softly. Besides this,
na verdade é o seguinte, até aqui estava tudo bem. Inclusive isso que o Monark falou, a lei é assim hoje, tá? A lei é assim hoje. O crime é você cometer o ato, são coisas separadas. Aí é que vem o problema. Vamos lá.
Many of the energy of the impact. So with all these measures, we can ensure that the touchdown is very comfortable for our astronauts.
All right. Well, let's check in with our reporter now. Zheng Yibing is at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Yibing, so what updates do you have for us there?
Beijing Space Control Center.
Here at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, everybody is counting down to the moment of the return of the Shenzhou 16 mission and the crew members. And also, according to the basic situation, we found the air and ground detachments at the Dongfeng landing site. They're in position at the Gobi Desert of the northwestern part of China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. And the medical treatment vehicles are also in position for the readaptation of the Taikonauts or Chinese astronauts' readaptation to the gravity on Earth. And here at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, we can hear the command word from the operator here. They're saying Beijing copy to all working systems, not just at the landing site, but also the telemetry and remote control systems across China. And we can hear that these people, they're basically working here on some commanding word from the different systems. So on right behind me on the big screen, we can see from the live streaming videos you just hear the Beijing copy from the Chinese word, Beijing 明白. And on the big screen, we can hear the status of the reentry module return to 16, and also the 3 tachonauts decontaminating. And also the payload specialist. Inside the reentry module, reading the instruction books and getting the final preparation for the return mission. So here at the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, BACC, we wish them a complete success. Back to you.
Thank you, Yibing, and we'll check in with you a bit later in the show. Well, I mean, China has done this so many times now. I mean, this is, it seems to be fairly routine, but really this is a very risky process, isn't it? It's fraught with lots of danger. So at what particular points do you think are the most dangerous for these astronauts coming back?
Well, I think one of the most critical moments is what we call blackout time. Where you have a very high velocity of the
momento mais crítico é quando tem o blackout de comunicações, que é no momento ali da reentrada.
Created plasma, and that stops the signals traveling from capsule back to Earth and the other way around. So there's what we call a very intense heating of the capsule. You know that I visited the factory that produced the capsule itself. It's in fact a big aluminium structure, but using a lot of technologies. On the surface of the structure, we created a thermal controllable, we'll call it skin, that can also burn the carbons to reduce the temperature of the capsule so that it can survive the blackout process. I think that's one of the critical moments, and the other critical moment would be the deployment of the parachute. Right. That is a crucial process. You don't have that, you don't have a safe return of the astronauts. So these are, I think, basically 2 very important points that we have to watch out.
And that's why often the deployment of the parachute is considered a moment where everyone can breathe a sigh of relief, right? This is almost like the success of the landing.
That's the Shenzhou spaceship orbiting the Earth with the first cosmic speed, about 7.8 kilometers per second. So we must reduce that speed to 0 to have a safety return. To reduce that to 0, mainly we depend on the aerodynamic forces. But with the aerodynamic forces, because the friction between the vehicle and the atmosphere, the highest temperature can reach to 2,000 degrees Celsius. So that is a very high temperature, and as Mr. Xu mentioned, we use a heating shield which use ablative materials. You know that with the ablative materials, when it is vaporized by the high temperature, and it can bring heat away. So the temperature inside the cabin is still in room temperature. But with this measure, although we can effectively reduce the temperature of the vehicle, but the vaporized ablative material will form the plasma shield which blocks the communication. So that is very dangerous.
Time
and
US,
also
Estados Unidos,
we cannot get the signals of the receivers of the navigation navigation satellite system, so we cannot predict the trajectory of the vehicle very precisely. Although this moment we can still track the vehicle based on the ground readers and also optical telescopes.
We just heard a message there saying about having located the target.
Se votar na China é comum, hein?
Ground station
capture the signals. Kashi ground station is at just the most westwood station, ground station of China. So this means that the Shenzhou spaceship is already very close to the China's territory. Great, the separation conducted.
Oh, we're not getting any images of that.
Só a câmera do helicóptero, isso mesmo?
Separation of the re-entry capsule and the propulsion, the service module.
Yeah.
Yes. Once that separation is occurred, and also the capture of the signal from Kashgar ground station, we know that the capsule is above Pakistan, somewhere in the
Karachi.
Karachi.
So that's
a nominal of the operation.
To Shenzhou 16 saying that the separation has been normal.
You may notice that we just heard the voice of the dialogue between the commander of the Beijing Flight Control Center and the Shenzhou 16 crew. This means that still at this moment we still have the communication link between the vehicle and the ground. But after several minutes, when it touches the upper limit of the atmosphere, it will. Okay, the second prediction.
Right, that's what we're hearing right now, the second prediction of the landing location. This is from the Beijing control, the ground controls.
Brasil, mas tá falando que enquanto a Índia pousa no polo sul da Lua, que tem gente cagando pela boca negando a existência tecnológica que está usando. Cara, esquece Brasil, velho.
Basically, not much control that can be done by the capsule itself. It's on a free flow
process. Isso aqui vai ser sempre uma fazenda. Isso aqui é uma grande fazenda do mundo. Não tem problema nenhum, a gente precisa de fazenda mesmo.
Also in Gansu province have captured also signals. So that
vai ficar a vida inteira
the
lutando
capsule
por um
is going
troço
back
que
in
não
high
tem
speed and high
sentido.
velocity.
To be able to, for the ground station to be able to locate the space station, it uses
just
travel
along the track, the ground track of the vehicle.
Basically, it's traveling from Africa, Pakistan, Xinjiang, and then came back to Inner Mongolia. Yes.
At this point, then the capsule.
Tem que ir lá na China, né? Procurar dragões puxando carroça.
It's already, you know, that it already only have one module left, the re-entry capsule, and the more important task for it now is to keep its attitude. Because when touching the atmosphere, it must be the right attitude to have the heating shield facing the forward.
But how can it do that if it's completely
with very small proportion
engines
on board the re-entry capsule?
Impressão minha ou tem?
So are they adjusting? Would the crew in the capsule be adjusting this right now, or are they just?
It's automatic.
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 British.
Okay, we've already seen the deployment of the. Okay,
that's the capsule.
That's the re-entry capsule.
Right? Yeah.
I think this is the infrared image.
Yeah.
So you can see a lot of heatings that they're depleted from the
Não
capsule.
teve uma reunião aí com
right
China,
part is the
Rússia,
capsule
não sei
itself,
quantos
and there's
países.
a tail of the plasma.
Isso eu falei, meu irmão.
You can see the long trail is the evaporized
heat.
The evaporized ablative materials. Which form the.
This is basically the blackout period. I think they can only track the capsule by the optical and infrared images, not by communication with the crew.
What kind of temperatures does this get to?
Above 2,000.
About 2,000. What about inside the capsule?
In room temperature.
I managed to keep it at that steady temperature the whole time back.
But there is an increase in the temperature, and also we know there's a window, and also lots of heating that comes in, and you can feel it, but you don't get burned because it's just controllable, still controllable.
But they would feel the change in temperature.
Yeah, they would feel the temperature changes.
Very bright.
It's like you're
Nova
very
ordem
close to an
mundial.
oven or fire.
Não era isso que a galera
You
queria?
still feel the fire, but you don't get burned. Yes, yeah.
So this blackout stage, how long does this last then normally? We're looking
A few minutes. A few minutes.
Usually the period of the blackout period is about 3 to 4 minutes.
3 to 4 minutes, and the astronauts themselves, I mean, we have no connection with them obviously right now.
Only with
Membro, tô vendo aqui na notícia, representantes de mais de 140 países e mais de 30 organizações internacionais estiveram presentes num evento diplomático de 2 dias da
also we
China.
have radar, the ground-based radar, to tracking the spacecraft.
Que começou
We've
hoje.
talked about this
É
before,
isso
but
mesmo
there's
ou eu
always
tô
this
errado?
perception that
No,
astronauts will lose consciousness or black out themselves, but most of the time they're completely fine on their way back, aren't they? They can manage
I'm
to
sure
stay
that
conscious
Jing
the whole
Haipeng,
time.
as the first time coming back, must be very excited, looking out and communicating with his colleagues.
They can also see the flames outside their window.
Líderes mundiais compartilham visão de nova ordem internacional sem os Estados Unidos.
That can't be too comfortable, but apparently it is for them if they're managing to keep it at a steady room temperature. So from now, now that they've entered the blackout zone, from now until touching down, roughly we're looking at how many minutes?
I think after the blackout, there will be a slowdown and deployment of the parachute, and there's a complete process. It depends also on wind speed, and then we have another prediction of the landing site. So quite, I think,
within half an hour.
With less than
that, 20 minutes or even more. So, Professor, you were saying that they're traveling. They need to get the speed down from 8,000 kilometers per second
to about, just as Mr. Xi mentioned, the deployment of the parachutes, the speed of the re-entry capsule is about 200 meters per second, and the altitude is about 10 kilometers high.
So in terms
Quais são? Eu
to
queria
get the
ver quais
speed
são
down,
esses 140 países.
Is it a very sort of a steady, slowdown, or is there a sudden slowdown
Let's say
at some
there's
point?
four ways of slowing down the capsule. First is this using the service module to what we call a brake burn, which is the burning of the engine to slowing down the capsule from 7.9 kilometers per second to a speed where it can start re-entering to the Earth.
That's a simulation we saw.
That's a simulation we saw before the separation of the service module. And the second stage is using what we're seeing now, using the atmosphere to drag down and to slow down the capsule so that it can reach a speed which is from supersonic to subsonic, so that we can start deploying the parachute. Because if you are deploying this parachute in supersonic, it will destroy the parachute and also even break down the parachute itself. So using the atmosphere to slow down is second stage, and third one is using that parachute. Fourth one is using the ritual engines at the 2 meters above the Earth. We fire the engine like a pyrotechnics, and then we slow down like a cushioning the capsule down to zero.
And at each stage, when this reduction in speed is being experienced, would the astronauts themselves experience a sudden jolt and a change in speed, or is it fairly imperceptible?
That is called overload or the G-forces.
Right.
That's the peak value will be about 3.6.
Acredita que dia o Brasil possa ter interesse espacial?
The forces you
Só você ver o chat aí que acho que já responde a pergunta. Seja aí, cadê a
of your own weight. So this is very uncomfortable, but lasts for only several half a minute of the peak value. But although in this normal case they only experience the G-forces of about 3.6 times their own mass, but that they must be trained for the emergency re-entry up to 8G. And moreover, you see that for the pilots and the commanders, they not only have to compare these G-forces, but also do the right operation under these G-forces up to 8G.
Yes, so the human can take up to 12G. Above that, you die. So it's the maximum that you can take by human body. So there was one return case by the Russian capsule. I was on board. There was a Korean female astronaut, and they came back 11G. So the astronauts came back, but they survived. And once they were asking how was the return, the lady said it's very sportive.
What you mentioned is Miss Yi Yan. She's also a good friend of mine. But she mentioned that she does not feel so serious during the whole process.
But then does it leave you with would it leave the human body with any kind of upsets or any ailments afterwards, after experiencing such a high number of Gs?
That not only these G-forces, but also very intensive vibration during these processes. That's a problem. So the astronauts must be trained before their flight missions for the vibration. They will go to the test bed and lying down there and fasten their safety belt and then experience the vibration. But the G-forces can also be simulated, but not the same time with the vibration. Okay, the third prediction. So you can see the prediction is slightly different from the previous ones.
What's that we're seeing there? Is that the parachute?
I think they're ready to deploy because you can see the sky.
That is the induced parachute,
this is the
and then the
that's the main parachute,
and then the main parachute.
And now we're looking at the actual
image.
I
believe this is the main parachute. So the total area of this main parachute is 1,200 square meters.
Wow, that's
very huge.
We see a very successful deployment of the parachute.
Yeah, that seems very smooth.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
It's all happening very quickly, so we're expecting this to possibly touch down in the next 10 minutes or so, right?
After deployment of the main parachute, there will be any control of the trajectory. So the landing point will purely depend on the wind. So that's why we need more predictions, because with the forecast of the weather, we can get the precise prediction of the speed of the wind, and then we have a more precise prediction of the landing point.
So we should be able to hear from the astronauts quite soon, right? From inside the capsule.
The opening of the hatch can take some time, because once you're there, it's 20-30 minutes before they return.
Qual você prefere visitar? ISS ou CSS? Minha opinião, estação chinesa é melhor.
I was wondering now that they've exited the blackout zone.
The communication link has already re-established.
Para mim, tanto faz.
So what kind of a speed are they at now? Is it did you say 200?
They are less than that.
Na verdade, eu preferiria visitar a ISS pelo simples fato de eu não falar mandarim, né? Eu ia ficar pra lá e pra cá, eu ia ter que usar aqueles óculos de realidade aumentada pra ficar traduzindo tudo.
You know that the altitude of the Jiuquan satellite function is about 1,000 meters high above the sea level. At this moment, still the altitude of the vehicle is several kilometers above that. So the speed is relatively high, and it will de-accelerate continuously. And just before the landing, it will be about
Isso foi no espaço e voltou, essa é só a cápsula,
8 meters per second.
Trazendo 3 taikonautas. Ficaram 5 meses na estação espacial
Let's say
chinesa.
a skydiver. If you jump off the plane, it's like a separation of the surface.
Commune Space Station. Conhece essa? Já ouviu falar dessa aí, o
deployment of the parachute is similar to this whole process.
Communism Space Station. Já viu essa?
From very high speed down to the parachute, then you open,
por isso que se chama CSS.
Drifting down. It's
Sabia?
like riding a balloon.
You can see Shenzhou 7 crew is watching the live coverage inside the space station.
So they went up there last
They are watching
week, last
the live
Tuesday,
coverage
of
of China Central Television.
That's right.
On the 26th.
On the 26th. So they spent only really 5
Pois é, e a
days.
CSS é mais nova, né? Tem isso também, Alexandre, bem lembrado. CSS é mais nova, né? E a ISS já é bem velhinha.
And the next step, they will release all the propellants inside the tanks of the re-entry capsule. You know that we use hydrogen as the propellant for the control of the re-entry capsule. It is called a monopropulsion system. Because the hydrogen is toxic, so we must release all
Então me diz aí,
the
Planilson, qual CGI você prefere? O CGI comuna da China ou o CGI do Mickey? Qual que você prefere?
But picking the exact day
Vai
for
ter que escolher um, não tem jeito.
what
Você vai ter
are
que
some of
escolher
the
um.
factors that they have to think about this, and perhaps the natural factors?
You may notice each time we have this live coverage in a different time. This is because you know that a basic requirement is that the re-entry can only conduct when the landing site is passing through the orbital plane of the Shenzhou
So the
spaceship.
closest distance.
So we don't have other choices. We just can only conduct at this moment.
So once the landing date, once that moment is determined, there's just really no adjustments to the landing date.
And
Window is not very flexible.
the answer of your question is that you know that we hope that we can conduct a faster return only for several hours because it will be very more convenient for our astronauts. So the position when the landing site is passing through the orbital plane across the orbital plane is also very important. So it must in a certain position in its orbit. So not every day we have this condition. So the day also should be carefully chosen.
Let's say they land.
E você, Hime, o que prefere? Eu não prefiro nenhum dos dois. Eu quero ficar no maior IDH do mundo, Noruega. Vocês fiquem aí discutindo. Eu faço live de lá e a gente fica discutindo isso aí.
Orbit, where it is in the orbit when the landing site passing across the orbital plane of the Shenzhou spaceship. And for different day, it's different.
But if you have enough fuel on board, you can adjust your orbit. That can still make you back to Earth, but it's a different process.
But
and it would be a much lengthier process, would it?
But theoretically speaking, they have a window to go back every day.
No, there is every day.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then, weather conditions. Then it doesn't matter if it's a little foggy or a little hazy, but what sort of conditions would be very dangerous then?
Windy.
That will be influenced the
Hime, me fala qual é o nome daquele livro que você recomendou uma vez, que você disse que era para entender a relatividade geral, era um livro que tinha uma maçã na capa. Tem a maçã na capa, não é o básico não, cara. Ele é brabo. Esse livro aqui, vê se é esse livro aqui.
Actual coordinate of the landing point.
So it makes it a little bit more unpredictable in that sense.
Não é básico.
And at this moment, we should monitor the whole.
Yeah,
that's a release of the propellant. You can see the smoke is the released vaporized propellant inside the tanks of the oxygen system.
How much propellant would be left in the capsule at this point before it released it?
Much little than the those in the propulsion module, because we only need to change the attitude of the re-entry capsule with this propulsion, very small monopropulsion system. And also there will be jettisoning of the main heating shield.
即将着陆东风着陆场预定位置。
I believe also at this moment or later there will be a raising of the chairs.
So we just heard a message there from the ground control to Shenzhou 16 saying they're preparing to touch down.
This is already a relative relaxed moment for the astronauts.
One thing to watch out at this moment is whether the capsules are landing at the vertical position or horizontal, because then the opening is going to be on top or on the side. So that also, because it's like
aquele livro ali tem 1000 páginas, cara, é difícil você ler.
The parachute is on top of the capsule, and once it's coming down, sometimes it's tipped over, sometimes it's landed upright.
But at some point they have to shed the parachute as well.
Livro pesado, cara, é usado para quem vai se especializar
is charged by Mr. Zhu Yangzhu, which is called 02. This is always done by 02 because there is a button just close to him. So as Mr. Xu mentioned, the most optimized one happened during the Shenzhou 6 mission and the Shenzhou 13 mission. Mr. Nie Haisheng and Ms. Wang Yaping conduct this very perfectly. So they cut the parachute at the right moment, so
que é taikonauta, é o astronauta da China.
Vertically.
Que o astronauta é o curso. Quem faz na NASA é astronauta, quem faz na China é taikonauta.
The moment cutting down is very important. So only in these two missions we achieved a vertical touchdown. And that's the most ideal. A vertical touchdown will be more convenient for the astronauts.
Because astronauts sitting upright, and if you're landing on the side, it's going to be leaning forward, or either landing on
their side.
On the side, yes.
And obviously, it wouldn't be ideal if they landed with the hatchet sort of pointing down, but is that possible?
It's never happened, but it's going to be a big rescue team.
But in most cases, as Mr. Xu mentioned, in most cases they will touch down in a horizontal attitude, because the reason is because that during the re-entry we need some control. And the principle is that the center of mass
tá mais alta em relação à minha voz.
Capsule have some deviation from the symmetrical axis of the vehicle. So usually it will line down.
Right. So did you say it's happened twice for China?
Yeah, only twice.
Only twice. The Shenzhou, which ones?
Because the button, Shenzhou 6 and the Shenzhou 13.
And one thing to look out at this moment is the firing of the ritual engine. That is just 2 meters above the Earth. So you'll see a big plum of smoke that coming down from the bottom of the capsule. That is normal because it's the firing of the ritual engine.
Okay. So that capsule, we can see that it is completely charred on the outside.
Yeah, it's on the one side. It has to be very charged. Yes.
On just the one side?
Yeah, because it's coming back in an angle. So one side has more frictions than the other.
And that this is a main parachute. In fact, we also have another backup parachute. If anything wrong happens to the main parachute, we can use the backup parachute to ensure the safety landing of our astronauts.
But that's never happened before.
It never happened before.
Surviving the landings.
That never happened.
No. Are we looking at the more charred side of the capsule right now?
Ali embaixo as mensagens, forças israelitas atacam a cidade principal de Gaza de 2 direções. Israel says ground forces are fighting Hamas in Gaza. UN breakdown of order in Gaza halts aid distribution centers. Cara, é só isso, né? UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees.
Very relaxed at this moment because they know they're safe now. It's already passing through the most dark moment.
They can put the manuals down as
Save
well
the
now,
children
right? Or do they still
they have a menu to open the hatch, and before that there has a couple of
But as I mentioned, Mr. Zhu Yangzhu will be in charge of touching the parachute. So this is an important moment for him.
So he can't relax yet.
Yeah.
Só tem isso de
Like Professor
notícia,
Yang
meu irmão.
mentioned, there's a gamma ray altimeter, so that is very radioactive. So the rescue team has to avoid the bottom side of the capsule to
Tá
avoid
lendo ali a
radiation
notícia ali embaixo?
contaminations.
They have a lead cover. They have a lead cover to block the radiation.
What sort of distance would they be from Earth right now?
I think it's a few hundred meters. I think even
A few hundred meters
yeah.
only.
Yeah.
Então algumas centenas de metros de
We can
distância do
see
Sol.
this
né?
video taken from the camera mounted on the,
on the helicopter.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay,
already
so
at
it's
the
already very
helicopter
close to-
altitude.
Right,
yes.
right. So the rescue routine would be the helicopter gets there first, spots it, locates
Usually,
it, and
usually.
then the ground teams
Because
then
it's
come.
faster than the ground vehicles.
Right.
At this moment, I believe that the chairs of the three astronauts has already been
Mas é
raised to the
estranho,
right
cara. Deixa eu ver,
position
deixa eu ver
to dump
pessoal.
the energy
É
of
estranho
impact.
estar alto.
I mean, coming back from them, it's still going to be a long time before
Aqui, ó.
they're able
Acabei de
to
receber e-mail aqui.
be able
Assinatura
to,
ativar,
you know, get back to their
inativada
normal lives,
de
right? And
apoio.
we're talking about a few
Yeah,
months
yeah.
of
They
recovery.
need some adjustment.
Três
Very
pessoas
long
cancelaram o
procedure for
apoio do
recovery.
Universo
You
Observável.
see that
Não é
the
desse
picture
canal
that
aqui,
we've seen a
não.
couple
Eu
of days
posto
ago,
vídeo
the
novo
two
lá, a galera
crews met,
cancela o
and
apoio.
Jing Haipeng
Não
has
entendo
very
isso.
swollen face
Oh, yeah.
because that happens
Cris-
when you're
Cris tá brava pra
exposed
geral,
to
galera.
extensively
Não tem
microgravity
jeito.
environment. Your body fluid, get confused whether
De qualquer
it's
maneira,
going to flow,
obrigado por ter
and
apoiado
you
algum
stay
dia.
extensively longer in outer space. You lose a lot of bone mass,
Sim, deixa eu abrir
and your
aqui,
cardiovascular
deixa eu
system
fazer.
changes,
Deixa eu abrir aqui
and
pra
your blood
tentar
flow and
entender, porque
water
pra mim,
flow in your
retorno
body changes
não tá
also.
ruim.
Your immune system sometimes changes, so it takes longer to at least a couple of months to get back to get used to the gravity. It's like a slowing process. You know, one of he said to me that he went to a foot massage after 800 days, 300 days in outer space. They say he has the most soft foot they have seen because they don't use
The
it.
false prediction.
48秒，
Vê se melhorou.
北纬41度38分35秒。
Some very
北京
precise
第四次多点预报已发
predictions
出。
there for the fourth. The fourth would be the final landing point.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then
This is where they
the
will be.
crews are, the vehicles, the helicopters are rushing to the site and ready to start.
É estranho, porque aí fica
And
muito
the
baixo no
wind
meu
speed
fone.
is
Tem que
also
dar uma ajeitada melhor nisso,
considered.
cara.
The influence of the wind speed.
Because that might carry them off
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
somewhere else. How big of a area would this fourth prediction be for the landing? Oh, there
I
they
see
are. They're
there's
almost-
it's going to be a
Aí, ó.
ritual
Oh, they just
firing.
touched
down.
Okay, we can
firing.
see the work of
can
the
see the-
rocket's motor.
Caraca, maluco.
Then there's a cutting of the parachute.
So what do you think? Will be vertical or horizontal?
Vertical.
So
Mr.
we
Too
will
good.
see the result very
Let's bet
soon.
on it.
Pressão mil, o bagulho virou.
There's still some wind. You can see the parachute is drifting on the side. And
Ele
also
empurrou e ainda virou,
I
mano.
believe it's already successfully cut down.
东风到北京听讲，
Ou foi impressão minha?
北京第四次落点预报已发出，后续由东
So
风
See the
安计
helicopter
划
going there and the
组
ground
织搜
teams
救
are
维修
ground
工
team
作。
also has arrived.
Que isso, cara? Aquilo ali. não-
Oh, you're able to see the ground teams
Acho
in
que
the-
deu ruim ali, galera. Que isso, mano? Pô, será que eu tô vendo errado?
按计划组织搜救行动。雄鹰
Xuying, that's the
Helicopter.
helicopter
team.
right?
Pera aí.
Name of it.
由东
So the down
I
it.
think it'll be the final.
Deixa eu voltar aqui
Yeah,
rapidinho.
Okay.
Ó,
The landing.
olha ali.
See, there's it's going to be a
Porrou.
ritual firing. Yeah, that's the
Okay, we
ritual
can see
firing.
the work of the
E virou, cara.
rocket's
Yeah, the
motors.
heat there will be the
Virou 3 vezes ali, maluco. Ô, eu tô.
后续东风明白。
雄鹰已在现场降落，返回舱呈倾倒状态，主伞已脱落，
It's on site.
着陆地形
Ah lá, tá virada.
报告稳定。
It's
You
like
see it's on.
that.
It's like
Que
that.
isso, mano? O bagulho porrou.
taking a rest.
Porrou feio o chão ali, cara.
So we can really see the vertical landing.
So it has to be a very, very precise moment when
With
they
even no
when they
wind
detach
at all,
it.
I think maybe.
So I mean, the wind might also blow the capsule over, or is it just the drag from the parachute?
It's a little bit drag, but also if you see that the attaching point of the parachute is also on, make the capsule a little bit sideways.
Ah,
it's
right.
not on really top of it.
And I mean, the parachute, it's also really critical that they do sever it straight away, right? Otherwise, that could cause the capsule.
If you haven't cut off the parachute, it will drag the re-entry capsule because of the wind. We can still remember during the during the Shenzhou 10 mission, because the parachute has not been cut down, so it dragged the vehicle for almost 100 meters.
Oh wow! You can see the crew is reaching the capsule there. So they have to be very careful, right, Mr. Xu? You were saying to avoid the bottom side.
Yeah, well, they have procedures that they have to follow. That which there are a number of crews, medical crews and hatch open crews, the technical supporting teams. All of these has to follow a procedure. Some people have to set up the parameter, right. Where it is forbidden, where it is to be, inviting different crews to come, approach and close to the capsule itself.
And the capsule, the outside of the capsule.
O cara botando tripé com a câmera aqui, tá vendo?
Toxic gases and
as I mentioned, we've already released all the propellants inside the tanks. So maybe there is a small amount of that,
but not enough to cause anything.
Not a big threat.
So they won't need to have to.
But as Mr. Xu mentioned, the radiation comes from the gamma ray altimeter will be a big matter. So you may notice that every time recovery, before block the radiation with the lead cover, usually the ground team does not go to the not facing the bottom of the vehicle directly.
Right. But the sides of the vehicle is okay.
Yeah.
So you see more crews approaching the capsule right now.
From the hatch side.
It's a good side. It's very. Is that the smoke, presumably,
hazy.
that
I
we're
think
seeing?
probably it's from the helicopters or others.
It looks like almost 10 people that are gathering around the capsule.
Just several weeks before return, the Shenzhou 16 crew just enhanced their physical exercise every day.
Mas pode ter falhado dos retrofoguetes, cara.
Treadmill to run inside station, and also the space bicycle and other exercise measures to strengthen their muscles.
E aí acionou mais um lado do que do outro, entendeu?
Set of exercise from what they would routinely do in the space station.
It's different because you know that because you know that they stay there for 5 months. During the ordinary cases, they don't have a certain schedule, but as I mentioned, just several weeks before their return, they will pay more time on this exercise.
Because 5 months, they don't have to use their muscle. I mean, everything, they're floating. They're floating, sleeping, they're floating, working.
Só dá uma olhada no gatinho ali,
so their muscle is substantially lost. If you don't use the muscle for 6 weeks, you lose your muscles and bones.
So these astronauts, they'd all experience a lot of weight loss, would they, upon coming back? Is that?
They basically stretch a little bit. I mean, they grow higher because there's
yes.
Oh,
but they'll go back to their normal height.
That's a good benefit of of space journey, no?
You know that during the interview, Mr. Judge Gang, the commander of the Shenzhou 13 crew, mentioned that you will feel uncomfortable even with the softest bed. Because with the influence of gravity, it's not so comfortable like sleep in outer space.
Sleeping in microgravity environment is the most comfortable way of sleeping. You're basically floating. There's no touching part from anywhere.
That sounds interesting. Maybe one day that can be.
But you have to just attach yourself to certain panels or boards for your own cabins. Otherwise, you're floating around.
Abrir as
You can
escotilhas.
see the ground staff is already near the hatch. I believe they are trying to open the hatch.
We've got medical teams also standing by. So with the last landing that we saw, there were medical vans, but one for each of the astronauts.
Exactly. You see that the different ground staff wear different clothes in different colors.
Red, blue, and black.
So some belongs to the astronaut system, in charge of the medical issues and to take care of the astronauts.
Would that be the ones in blue and white?
Yes. possibly. And some,
Mas eu não tinha não. Basicamente veio.
Some belongs to the
Andou na minha direção na rua.
The spaceship system will be in charge
Basicamente me pedindo ajuda.
As we discussed, to manage the re-entry capsule, to block the radiation and other operations.
But it's good weather. I mean, temperature-wise and everything. So they are going to prepare 3 chairs for the 3 astronauts, ready at the gate of the hatch, and then they will. I mean, the astronaut has to. More or less came out by their own, but after 5 months of exposing to microgravity environment, they're very weak.
Right.
So they have to be quickly moved to the chair, and they don't have to make a major movement. I think at this moment, the astronauts in the capsule feel their weight now back to Earth. Everything is very heavy.
They get lifted out, but then they can walk. Right?
They can, but they are
dangerous. It's just difficult.
Because their bone mass has lost substantially in outer space. So the bones and muscles cannot.
Cara, eu tô curioso para saber os caras como é que estão ali dentro.
Movement at this moment.
So from now, from after they leave the capsule, they'll be lifted and then taken to the little medical vans waiting for them. And then at what point? Usually, how long would it be before they're able to walk by themselves again, or when it's considered safe for them to walk by themselves?
Usually after several weeks, after readaptation to the gravity.
So the next few weeks they'll
at
be
this moment,
bedbound.
At this moment, usually in most cases, they'll lying down in bed to ensure that, as Mr. Xu mentioned, the possible breaking of their bones.
So I have a question then. If they are bedbound for the next few weeks, how then do they regain muscle strength?
Not exactly bedbound all the time. They have to go through a rehabilitation process. Like once you had an operation, you have to recover, and you have to go to exercise.
And enhance their tolerance to stand up.
Take medicines.
So they'll be opening the hatch, and we should be seeing the order of their exit. It'll be the commander first.
And at this moment, the medical team will help the astronauts to readapt the gravity environment.
I think the people in blue and white trousers could be from the China Aerospace Science Technology Corporation. They're the manufacturer of the capsule, and they have a technical supporting team to operate and open the hatch. And they know which screw to unwise and which way to touch.
You may compare of the person with the size of the re-entry capsule. It's really small.
That's
for
right.
three persons inside. And even they are very
heavy space.
There's 3 or 4 of them gathered at the hatch of the capsule already. They're kind of blocking half of it. So very little space. So what?
You can still see that nobody on the bottom side of the capsule. So there's still, as Professor Young mentioned, there's somebody who's going to use a radioactive blocking cap to cover the radiations.
We haven't seen anyone do that.
Quer saber como é que os caras estão ali dentro? Óbvio que os caras não conseguem andar, né? 5 meses no espaço, tem que readaptar de volta à gravidade da Terra, né? Eles não vão conseguir andar.
I mean, with such a small space, I mean, they have, so the hatch is opening now.
Not only our 3 heroes, but also the valuable samples returned from space.
Exactly, that's exactly what I was going to ask. It's such a small space, but they have to bring some, food and water for themselves, presumably some of their own personal belongings.
Yeah,
and
not much food and water because they're coming back in only 11 hours. So
that's true, but they have to make provisions in case, though, right? If they're somewhere hostile.
Very compact, survival kits, and also even including a raft and many other facilities, and the experiments results and samples back from outer space.
So it really isn't much space at all. What sort of samples do you think they'll be bringing back? What do you hope they'll be bringing back?
That for the space biology and the space medicine, they have a lot of samples back to the Earth. Moreover, this time, that we also have all the material making experiments on board the Tiangong space station, including the the rack without contact to the material, just use laser to heating up the material to about 3,000 Celsius degrees, and we can with the gravity environment we can make all kind of very perfect sphere in sphere shape.
Queimadinha a cápsula, hein?
And also we have other material making, including the crystal of proteins, and also the material made in a very high temperature. So this kind of study has already been conducted since Shenzhou 13 and Shenzhou 14 mission. So this time we can continuously see this kind of research. Moreover, you know that in some cases their own body of the 3 astronauts are also being studied for space medicine purposes. For instance, some blood samples and other samples.
So it's taken quite a while for
Tá queimadinha, tá queimadinha.
the hatch. Is that because
Essa
they're also
cápsula
doing
aí
some preliminary medical checkups?
brincadeira
inside
não.
the capsule at this stage? I mean, it's been minutes.
At this moment, the ground team, especially the medical team, medical care from the astronaut system, will checking the right status of our 3 astronauts.
I mean, their health conditions are being monitored all the time. I mean,
Right.
even heart rate and blood pressures and everything. So they can receive all the data even out of the blackout, and they have the parameters and the astronaut safeties. So they're currently basically working on the hatch itself, because you can see the side of the black burn, the charted part, and also the part that has not been burned so extensively. So the metal has been exposed to high temperatures, and
Tamanho da formiga, viado.
some tight points and tight
Parecendo aquele
that needs to be
filme.
open.
Esqueci o nome do filme.
For the
Pô, Moz é formigão.
It's not so.
Tô na Austrália e não sei.
easy, because it was originally attached to the orbital module.
Will the capsule now still be hot to the touch, or will they have lost all the temperature?
I think it's basically more or less loss of all the temperatures, because it has been exposed to atmosphere underneath the parachute for
O tamanho da formiga,
10
mano.
minutes. So it's also the friction on the carbon is not creating heat, only on metal, so it didn't.
Hime, Sérgio mandou um abração pra você. Eu fui lá cumprimentar ele e dar like. Manda um abração pro Sérgio de volta lá.
The result, as Mr. Xu mentioned, is the jettisoning of the heating shield after the deployment of the parachute. You know that after the deployment of the parachute, we just jettison the heating shield because the temperature is too high. More important is to expose the gamma ray altimeter and the 4 retro rocket to the outer environment to make it possible to deaccelerate the vehicle to the safety landing touchdown speed.
So you see on the left side is the opening of the one small hatch, which is they used to pack the parachute inside. So you can see that the hatch has been opened and has been used on the left side, left bottom side. Yes.
That is the chamber for the main parachute.
Yeah.
I mean, a few months to rehabilitate, to recover, and then is it likely that these astronauts will go straight back into training and get ready for the next one?
We may notice that Mr. Just during the handover, I mean, from between the Shenzhou 17 crew and the 16 crew, Mr. Tang Hongbo has the shortest interview between 2 flight missions.
That's right, and he's the first one to return as well.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah. He's the first one to return our Tiangong space station. But you know that based on the standard of the other countries, Mr. Jing Haipeng of this mission.
So we're hearing from the search crew right now, the helicopter crew.
Great.
Yeah, they've just announced there that the astronauts are in good health condition, physical condition. That's from the search crew there. So how long was the interval for Mr. Tang going up again?
About 2 years. He also makes this record.
2 years, that's pretty short.
Pretty short for 2 flight missions. You know that.
So he was the first one into the space station, right? And then now he's returned.
He's first crew.
Yeah.
And you know that Mr. Jing Haipeng, based on the standards of other countries, he is one to have entered 3 space stations: Tiangong 1, Tiangong 2, and this Tiangong space station. Because although we categorize our Tiangong 1 and Tiangong 2 as space laboratories, but in other countries they also categorize that also as very small space stations.
Something else interesting as well. So when the Shenzhou 17 successfully launched.
Não, isso aí é normal, galera. Eles estão fazendo verificação só ali da entrada.
So why is that? Why is it so fast and without
actually
any break?
speaking, the combination of the Shenzhou 18 spaceship together with the Long March 2F Y18.
Se tivesse dado metro, ele já tinha avisado.
The combination is act as the emergency rescue standing by combination of.
Tá demorando para os caras saírem, não tá não, cara. Vocês nunca assistiram Volta de Astronauta, né? Nem da Crew Dragon. É isso aí mesmo, é assim mesmo.
This half a year duration. So if anything wrong happen, if the Shenzhou 17 spaceship is not feasible for the safety return of the crew, so the Shenzhou 18 will be launched.
I see. So it's all backup basically.
Essa demora inicial é assim mesmo.
So it's what we call redundancy. It's for life of people. You have people on board the station. You have a hiccup of the 17th, and you can quickly replace that with 18. So still the crew can come back.
And is that pretty standard practice?
Yes, it's normal practice.
Because there has been scenarios before where I read that there had been a problem up at the at a different space station, and the ground team, they weren't prepared like they are now. So it took them a year before the next crew was able to get up there.
Internationally, it's not the practice. It's only the Chinese practice. Yeah.
We're just announcing the precise landing spot right now of the capsule, the Shenzhou 16 crew.
The real coordinate, the final coordinate of the landing point is announced now.
You can see that all the calculation has been collected, so the scientific community.
Então vamos voltar a falar da gatinha. Já escolheu o nome? Não, ainda não escolhi o nome, estou em dúvida. Mas eu não vou falar para vocês não. Vai ficar todo mundo na curiosidade aí. Depois eu faço uma live de revelação do nome do gato.
Exactly. This is a very good reference for the future missions.
Absolutely. And to me, it just sounds like a bunch of numbers. But of course, for the scientists, it's all very important data, isn't it?
To optimize the re-entry procedure in the future. So this is a very good reference. And very helpful for our researchers
and to pinpoint a more precise location.
Quando bater 1000 pessoas na live, eu falo o nome da gata.
You can see from this mission that the crew came very quickly.
Yeah, that was very quick. Yeah.
Yeah, within minutes. Yeah.
So this that's pretty standard now, isn't it, for the crew to reach the space capsule?
Tem 224 mil inscritos, não é isso? 1000 pessoas assistindo não é muita coisa.
Every time we can take the video of the moment of touchdown with the smoke of the retro rockets.
What's the difference from the first manned return? The first capsule from this one.
Well, Mr. Yang Liwei introduced the moment that during the re-entry of Mr. Yang Liwei in October the 16th, 2003. He mentioned that because we don't have experience before, so it's already lost of control because everybody is so excited. Although we have isolation area, but everybody rushed inside and even raised Mr. Yang Liwei up. So, because that is the first time that Chinese fulfills the millennium dream to go to outer space. So everybody have great emotion, very, very exciting on that.
Yeah, the level of
we can understand that.
Is so different, exactly. Yeah. I mean, now it's very routine. We're happy and excited that they're back, but it's just expected that it will go well, right?
Yeah, I believe that the next time we have this moment will be the return of our astronauts from the moon.
That would definitely be
the only way stayed only
21 hours.
21 hours in orbit. So there's no major mass loss of muscles and bones, no major changes in the body.
Yeah.
And also, we had 5 missions before the Shenzhou, the Yang Liwei mission, because there's
Maria Gasolina e João Etanol, não, é zoeira, pô.
Was conducted even before we sent a man to space. So we have to be very reliable on the system itself. The capsule has not changed, as you mentioned, for the past 2 decades. But we're designing a new generation crew capsule that enables us to put 7 people on board at the same time.
Wow. So the new generation.
Yeah, new generation has been tested and ready to be used in the future with the new generation launch vehicle.
7 people, that number of people, is that designed for a reason? I mean, 3 is the basic that's needed, right?
This is very helpful for our future study. You know that for any ascending or launch or the return, we require at least 2 of the astronauts has a capability to piloting the ship.
Right.
So they must be trained for this and use a lot of time. With 7 crew members, which means that we can have more scientists and engineers only dedicated to scientific research. That will be more efficient for us to clarify any scientific research on board Tiangong space station.
So 7 is just at the moment the maximum that it's possible.
At this moment, and also for interplanetary missions, also we can have more crews on board, and also, for example, we have ambitions to land on the surface of the moon in the coming decade. So that also can be useful for either moon maneuver in the low Earth orbit and also for deep space exploration.
The more the merrier.
Yes.
Especially if they're going on such long journeys.
Yeah,
exactly.
Mr. Yang Liwei has already mentioned during the interview that the future lunar human missions, the astronauts must already have experience to stay in our Tiangong space station first. So this is a very important criteria for our training of astronauts. So I believe that why is the reason we choose
merciful.
such a young crew for the Shenzhou 17 mission. You know, that's the total crew member only 34 and 35 years old. So because they are so young, so in the future they are experienced and become veterans after this Shenzhou 17 mission. So in the future, it is also possible for them to be chosen for the lunar missions.
Curtiu lá, Bruno? Cursinho?
We're going to hear from the Shenzhou 16 crew now.
Falei pra vocês comprarem o curso que vocês iam curtir de Galáxias. Não tem lugar nenhum na internet algo parecido com aquilo ali.
By themselves.
That's right. So let's see. We'll hear from them any minute.
I think hatch has been opened.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been seeing the search crew, the rescue crew, and go in.
Yeah.
You can see that the Jiuqian satellite launch center is the sky is very clear in a very beautiful blue color.
Than earlier. I mean, 20 years, right? 20 years since the first...
20 years anniversary of the first manned mission.
And so much has changed. And if you look at just the last few landings that I've seen, it's all so controlled. You know, every stage is so controlled and almost so predictable as well.
Yeah. We have already formed a very standard routine.
I mean, Yang Liwei, when he first went up there, he was saying on the way there, the space capsule was just vibrating, shaking, incredibly, right? That was such
especially during the launch.
Yeah.
Because we don't have much experience at that moment. So at Mr. Yang Liwei's first mission, we just optimized the launch process, especially control of the control system to avoid the vibration.
Because he said it was terrifying. It was incredibly uncomfortable for him.
He almost, that Mr. Yang Liwei mentioned later that he almost thought he will lose his life during that moment.
And probably not just him, the entire ground control, everybody is just holding their breath.
Because of the launch vehicle is designed in such a way it accelerates, also provides gravity, like...
Engraçado que a Carol ali quase acertou dos nomes que eu pensei.
It's like the jog that you mentioned.
Estatística é foda, né, cara? A galera vai chutando, sempre aparece alguém.
It's not, different direction, but also up and down. So that makes
Henrique, valeu, cara. Seja bem-vindo, novo membro do canal.
We can simulate the vibration and we can simulate the G-forces, but we cannot simulate it simultaneously on the ground. So that's the problem.
Oh, okay. So in training,
that is the reason why Mr. Yang Liwei feels so uncomfortable during that moment.
And is that still not
simulated? Por que eles levantaram essa fita ali de proteção?
It's too difficult for
Tem ninguém no deserto,
ground facilities.
So when these astronauts train and prepare for this, they just go through the two motions separately and try to imagine what it's like together.
But honestly speaking, we can simulate more intensive G-forces up to 8G. To dealing with the abnormal cases.
So not only are we more technologically advanced, but these astronauts themselves are far more prepared now to go up to space.
Esse gato de planil se chama CGI.
So maybe the normal procedure is not so challenging, not so uncomfortable for the astronaut, but the training of the emergency cases is very tough for them.
A fita de segurança é para dragões não invadirem a cápsula, né? Vai que surja dragões puxando cápsulas agora na China.
Yep. We heard from the astronauts.
They're saying they feel well. We just had a message there from the assets inside saying that we've safely landed, we feel
祝贺
well. See you in
神舟
Beijing.
16号，你们辛苦了，向你们致以崇高的敬意。我们在北京迎接你们凯旋。
And there's the ground staff congratulating them on their return, and
my friend Commander Jing Haipeng just report his status with his, the Shanxi accent.
Couldn't really hear it.
And now the unbuckling of the safety belt of the Commander-in-Chief.
Yeah. That since the the Shenzhou 9 mission, because that Mr. Jing Haipeng comes from Shanxi province, and we prepared more vinegar for him.
Of course, their first meal, they must be really looking forward to this. But since their bodies are readjusting to Earth and the gravity environment, does that mean that the first things that they eat, should there be more care put into what they eat, or is it okay? Can they just eat anything?
It's
they
also
like?
carefully chosen for their first meal.
So they can't be picking spicy Sichuan hot pot or anything like that for their first
but
meal.
Depends.
But whatever they eat there it's going to be tasting very good, because space food is
bland.
very challenging because it's experience everyone have. Once you're flying on board a plane, the food on the plane tastes differently compared with the food on Earth. So they're coming back for some earthly.
Yeah, because the taste buds are much more dulled, right, up in space.
But that Mr. Ye Guangfu of the Shenzhou 30 mission, he comes from Sichuan province. I believe that it's okay for him to have any spicy food.
So we're not too worried about their digestive systems, only their physical.
Yeah, because the body flow is upside down. Then your taste bud is different.
Right.
Even in outer space, you taste things differently.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Even the same thing.
Because the redistribution of your blood in your body, so your tongues will be less sensitive compared with that on the ground.
Because all the food that they have up at the space station that's brought by all these cargo ships, they're all just pre-prepared. You just heat them up and they're ready to eat, right?
And
so they are fond of more salty food.
Yeah.
Because in microgravity environment, you don't have crumbles and things. You can flow around and damage.
O que é que está fazendo aí?
Like either holdable or squeezable. Something it cannot go out of control.
So what sort of foods then are we talking about? I'm finding it hard to imagine paste as
frozen,
a meal.
Quick frozen things and things like you put in like a toothpaste, but it squeeze out. But you do have things like pancakes and apples, because they don't.
Oh, they can eat fresh fruit.
They have apples.
Okay.
Yeah. And also some grissini.
Otherwise, paste for 5 months, 6 months, that could be enough to deter certain people.
The Tianzhou 6 cargo spacecraft brought 70 kilograms of fresh fruit.
Os caras estão demorando para abrir essa cápsula, hein? Caraca.
But what about fresh vegetables? Is that something that
Agora tá
they also have
demorando
access to?
They can plant these vegetables now.
Well, if you're just tuning in, which I'm sure you're not, because this has been a very exciting journey back, the Shenzhou 16 re-entry capsule has touched down at the Dongfeng landing site in China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. And the 3 taikonauts are ready to exit the capsule. We've been waiting for them to come out for the last few minutes, and that marks the completion of their 5-month mission. And the medical examination shows that the 3 taikonauts are all in good health, and we heard the reports from the commander himself earlier, saying that they are well and they're waiting to see everyone back in Beijing. So this mission, to recap, was launched on May 30th, 2023. And we have Commander Jing Haipeng,
preso na cadeira ali.
And they went to China's Tiangong
Cápsula
space
virou,
station
girou e os
for
caras estão tudo de boa.
4 days in orbit, that's about 5 months. And during this time, they conducted multiple key tasks, including large-scale in-orbit tests and experiments. And they also carried out some
Não, hora dos fatos, não é só isso não, cara. Os astronautas ali eles não conseguem andar. Então, é meio chatinho você chegar lá, desprender todos eles, entendeu? Leva um tempinho.
They've been on for now more than 12 hours. They left at 8:37 p.m. Beijing time, so almost exactly 12 hours ago. A long journey home.
You know that the inside volume of the Shenzhou spaceship, as we already seen, is very, very narrow.
Grande Henrique Vilela Music. Caramba, pior que eu lembro disso. O Pix que eu prometi que mandaria quando conseguisse um trampo. Conseguiu um trampo, cara? Agora vai. Agora vai. Fortaleceu. Tamo junto, cara. Parabéns aí pelo seu novo job. Espero que dê tudo certo. E que você fique bastante feliz, cara.
What's the record return time? Do you know? And this one
Tá brincando com meu pé aqui, velho.
Just under
this
12
one is
hours.
about 6 to 8 hours. It is an ordinary case.
6 to 8 hours, and they detached. They separated at 8:37.
Just from the separation to the station to the landing, maybe longer. But you know that this also depends on what I mentioned, the position or orbit of the Tiangong space station comparing with the relative position to the landing site. So you know that it will be different for each day. So if we return tomorrow, it will be a different interval. That depends on the position in orbit. And also, you know that.
But each time the position
Cara, assim, vamos lá. É que no Rio de Janeiro tudo é diferente, né? Então, por exemplo, usar cinto no Rio de Janeiro tem um problema de quando você é assaltado, porque aí na hora que você... Tem gente que tem medo, eu tenho um pouco de medo disso, porque eu já vi e quase já fui assaltado 3 vezes com carro, moto, essas coisas. Geralmente, a galera no Rio de Janeiro é um universo paralelo, as regras são diferentes. A galera não gosta de usar cinto no carro, porque se você é roubado, o ladrão pode confundir achando que você vai pegar uma arma para trocar tiro com ele na hora que você vai tirar o cinto para sair do carro. Não usa o cinto no Rio de Janeiro por conta disso. Mas como eu disse, realmente é um universo paralelo aqui no Rio de Janeiro.
And with the Tiangong 2 missions, since that moment in 2016, we just raised the altitude to 393 kilometers high. So usually the Tiangong space station orbiting the Earth can up to about 450 kilometers high. That depends on which phase it is in, because you know that it uses its propulsion system, including its electric propulsion system, to keep its altitude every day. So this time we return from the, as Mr. Xu mentioned, maybe from the altitude about 390 kilometers.
97.
And in the future, you know that as we've already discussed, the
fazer uma aula de sobrevivência para quem quer visitar o Rio.
And when the spacecraft is close to the Earth, the speed can reach about 11 kilometers per second. Close to the second cosmic velocity. So that will be a very great challenge to conduct the protection from the high temperature. That will be more challenging compared with the return from the low Earth orbit, about several hundred kilometers high.
So the temperature would be even higher than
even
what
higher.
And we use the atmosphere to drag it, you know, like a bouncing on the atmosphere, and then
skid re-entry.
Skid re-entry.
Yes,
it bounces once on the atmosphere before landing, and then come back again. So it's slowing down with the air of the Earth.
And how would that experience differ then for the astronauts?
Well, we have never done that before because the astronauts, so far, we have flown only 400 kilometers above the Earth.
Yeah.
Longest duration, 6 months. And the plan is to put, you know, the humanity has landed on the surface of the moon, which is 380,000 kilometers away.
Massive difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and also we are planning to do that by end of this decade. So to send astronauts there and then came back safely. That's going to be the experiencing of the bouncing of the astronauts, because that has been conducted by the sample return mission of Chang'e 5, which is using the capsule and bouncing on the Earth's surface, and then came back in a lower velocity.
What sort of time frame do you expect that will be then, this return?
2030. We just according to the formal announcement of the China Manned Space Agency, we will conduct our first human landing to the moon before 2030. Moreover, another important fact just announced by the China Manned Space Agency by Mr. Lin Xiqiang, the Deputy Chief Director of China Manned Space Agency, we formally invite the foreign astronauts to attend our human missions to the moon. So we can see in the future the Chinese astronauts together with the foreign astronauts walk on the moon together. You see that the human landing, the crewed lander of our future lunar missions, we can have 2 crew members to land on the moon. The other stay in the orbit with the new generation manned spaceship. So with the 2 astronauts walk on the moon, one can be from China and the other from the other country. So that's very, hopefully we can see that scene in the future.
But incidentally, there's an international initiative called Artemis, which is led by US NASA. Was also participated by more than 20 country plus. That is the idea is to build what we call a space gateway, which is a international space station on the lunar velocity, size lunar orbit. So that is going to be human-attended lunar orbiting and landing. Also, they have set a goal of boots on the moon by 2024 or 2025. So that is also something going on at the same time with the Chinese ambition.
How long would the journey to the moon take for man?
There's a direct trajectory, but basically
só por causa da namorada gringa, é realmente uma cidade maravilhosa, muito bonita mesmo, mas não volto mais não, mouse aí. É o problema é que eu tive que voltar.
So we need
Galera, vocês acham que eu tinha o mínimo de falando sério aqui, sem brincadeira. Vocês acham que eu tinha o mínimo de vontade de querer voltar de Dublin, de Oslo, na Noruega?
But if you, for instance, during the
Apollo
17 mission, because the astronauts
Stockholm,
stay on the
na
moon
Suécia.
surface for about
Você tá
3
doido,
days.
cara.
So they stay longer.
Reykjavik ali na Islândia também.
For the whole mission.
É porque não dava, eu tive que voltar mesmo.
That seems that seems unimaginable to me. I mean, then these astronauts coming home in just 12 hours. Well, it's since the separation, compared to 3 days.
Especially, that stay in so small volume for so many days.
But of course, then a journey to the moon, it would be a very different kind of rocket and capsule system. Right?
That's only with the moon mission, the astronaut can see the shape of the Earth is a sphere. That's as we already discussed, either our Tiangong spaceship, either those spacecraft from other countries orbiting in the low Earth orbit, they cannot see the Earth as a sphere. They can only see that the horizon is a curvature, because that the diameter of the Earth is more than 12,000 kilometers. So only with the altitude of several hundred kilometers, you cannot see the sphere.
You can still say that the Earth is flat, but it's no doubt.
And it's really beautiful from the eyes of the Apollo astronaut. You can see the blue bubble. The Earth looks like a blue bubble. Really, really beautiful.
Pois é, cara. No dia que eu voltei, 35 ônibus. O dia que foi o dia que eu voltei, cara. 35 ônibus queimados aqui. Foi o dia que eu voltei, velho. Surreal, cara. Pô, tá maluco, cara.
Yeah. With a high definition camera. So I believe several days later, maybe we can see the formal release of this very beautiful video from China Manned Space Agency.
And how challenging would that task have been to take those photos? Because I think were they flying around the space station?
Just with the help of the propulsion system on the, as Mr. Xu mentioned, the service module or the propulsion module. So we can have a maneuver just circling around our Tiangong space station. We do have the videos and images of the whole Tiangong station, but that from the previous missions, we just either the Tianzhou spacecraft or the Shenzhou spacecraft approach and leave the station in a certain routine, in a certain path. So,
eu não vou ficar com esse gato não, cara. Tô só cuidando dela aqui por enquanto e depois eu vou doar. Eu tô vendo alguém aqui. Eu não tenho como ficar não. Mano, eu não tenho nem casa. Essa casa não é minha, cara.
So that's actually a very, very, I believe, very,
very ficar mendigando pixel aqui ao vivo, pô.
Definitely. That's also another first for China.
This is taking a bit of time for them to,
I mean, usually I think they come out a lot faster than this. But we heard back from the astronauts earlier and they said that they are safe, physically well. What sort of complications do you think there could be?
Could be, like I said, the unbuckling of the safety belt. I think probably the opening of the hatch took some time, and then they have the readjustment of the posture of the astronauts, because maybe they could be upside down, facing.
That's right.
Yeah.
As in facing downwards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Quite right. So they must be trained for this many times. Because in most cases, the capital will lying down during the re-entry.
So I mean, if they were suspended essentially,
exactly,
and facing downwards,
with their safety,
they'd have to come down very carefully. Right?
So that is reason why we say that during the Shenzhou 13 mission, when the 3 astronauts coming out of the capital, they are in very good condition because the vertical touchdown will be more comfortable than this.
Yeah. They're like lying on bed. But all of these are efforts on, one of the major goals is to use the Chinese space station as a stepstone for more ambitious program like lunar missions.
Right.
Astronauts like we have mentioned, young generation astronauts are experiencing microgravity environment, working in that conditions, and in preparation for maybe future selection of lunar astronauts that can travel and work on the surface of the moon, and then came back safely. All of these are we call a stepping stone or a validation platform for future missions, in particular more ambitious missions of the moon and Mars.
Is there a possibility of the space station being used as sort of a platform to the moon? Like a pit stop
it's
before
just
you head off?
as you mentioned, it's just can be recognized as a platform to test all kinds of technologies for the lunar missions, for the human lunar mission. But that because of the features of orbital dynamics, our astronauts will go to the moon directly, not from the China's Tiangong space station. Because that to go to the moon, we must facing the moon directly with its orbit. But usually that is not the same orbital plane of the Tiangong space station. So that is the reason why we should go to the moon directly. Moreover, you see that we use the Long March 10, the new generation launch vehicle, to be the launch vehicle to be used in the future missions to the moon. And that's the Long March 10, especially the third stage. The third stage of the Long March 10 use the liquid hydrogen and the liquid oxygen as a propellant. And that the liquid hydrogen is very difficult to be stored in outer space for a long period. So they can only stay there in orbit for maybe 1 or 2 orbits and then just go to the moon to conduct what we call the translunar orbit insertion.
Right. So it has to be conducted from Earth.
Yeah. It is also interesting in these days. Just on the social media, there is saying that Mr. Jiang Xinlin is the ideal one for the future lunar mission because he has for the Mr. Jiang Xinlin from the Shenzhou 17 crew, because he not only has experience to piloting fighter jet, the experience to piloting a Shenzhou spaceship, but he also has the experience to drive a tank. So maybe he's very ideal for the future mission to drive our lunar rovers, manned lunar rovers on the lunar surface.
Or lunar tank.
He'll need to come back first from the space station and go through his rehabilitation.
Because that he's only 35 years old. For his first mission, he becomes a veteran of this Shenzhou 17 mission. So in the future, he has plenty of chances to go back to the outer space, even the future lunar mission.
Absolutely. I mean, by 2030, and that's just in the next few years, that will come much sooner than we expect. Well, the space station is also going to be expanded as well, right? So right now it's got these 3 modules, but it will eventually be expanded to 6, perhaps?
Yes, but first we will add the 4th module to the space station to change the configuration from a T-shaped one to a cross-shaped one. With the 4th module, that also 20-ton level module, very huge. It will have more docking ports and more berthing ports. With more docking ports, we can add to have more than 3 spaceships, either a Tianzhou cargo spacecraft or a Shenzhou manned spacecraft attached to the station. So this brings more flexibility of the future arrangement of our different missions.
Right.
You know that during you may still remember just before
quantas ficou lá o vídeo novo. Não vou nem olhar, cara. Vou nem olhar, senão vai me deixar triste. Melhor não olhar, não.
Prepare for going out.
That's right. They've just announced the astronaut is preparing to come out now.
Aí, ó, saindo ali já.
So that means that with the help of the ground team, especially the medical team, they already accomplished the readaptation to the gravity. So they are in good shape.
Would they be experiencing a big change in the air? Would that be something that they could feel?
Not much difference. Probably only the temperature and the freshness.
Right.
The inner ear of the astronauts will feel, orientation on the Earth gravity. They have to find their center of gravities and directions. So they get oriented once they're landed. Right. So the inner ears and the brains get somehow adopted to the gravity of the Earth, and then they start the right movement. Sometimes they get disoriented once they landed immediately. So we will see that the preparation of the chair, that is for
and also we can see a sleeping bag to keep him warm.
And also padded as well, right?
Oh, Mr. Jing Haipeng is already out of the capsule.
You can see him waving a little.
Right now, 2 more to go.
And that's Captain Commander Jing Haipeng. We see they're back home, they're on Earth, but they are quite far from their first step back on Earth, right? It'll be a while yet.
But they will quickly adopt and stand up.
He's smiling, he's happy.
Yeah.
We expect to hear from him as well. You see the press, the reporters coming out.
Mr. Jin, welcome back. And with CMG. So, as the most experienced taikonaut of China, in your pursuit of dreams, you've been making breakthroughs after breakthroughs. So, what do you want to say to the people of China right now? At this moment, I am very excited. And finally, we've returned home to the embrace of our motherland. After 5 months of missions and all tasks are completely finished. And I think this trip to the China space station is a wonderful experience for me. And I want to also say on behalf of my two partners, for their wonderful experience and performance. They have done such a great job, and we led a happy life and
agradecendo basicamente, galera ali, a equipe, as pessoas.
No mistakes were made, and this is a zero mistake and perfect mission. And I think we have made all of the aspirations of the professionals into reality, and we have lived up to the expectations of the country, the party, and the people. And this is the result of joint efforts and teamwork. I think we can realize our dream and also exceed our dreams and create new dreams. And this would not be possible without instructions and the cultivation of the party and the people and the country. And I think my highest tribute goes to the country and also the times.
Em resumo, ele está fazendo discurso nacionalista, que é possível realizar sonhos, criar novos sonhos, etc e tal, piriri pororó, piriri pororó.
For the next mission and also make new contributions to the China's aerospace missions. Last but not least, I want to speak on behalf of the Shenzhou 16 crew. I want to thank all of the people and my country. Thank you.
Gostaria de agradecer a todas as pessoas do meu país.
And that there is Commander Jing Haipeng. Very happy to be
back.
É
China, meu irmão.
So we can see that Commander Jing Haipeng is in very
Galera, vou finalizar a live, o pessoal tá indo embora aí, já tá com menos de 80 pessoas até aqui pra mim caindo. Vou jantar aqui e dar comida pra esse gatinho aqui. Pra essa gatinha aqui que tá mordendo meu dedão aqui do pé. Beleza, galera? Qualquer coisa vocês acompanhem lá na CGT.
More important that he sing high praise of his 2 colleagues, the very young colleagues from the 3rd generation.
Muito obrigado a vocês que estão sempre aparecendo na live. Valeu, galera. Um abraço a todos. Boa terça-feira. Boa segunda-feira, né?
Oh, I didn't see those pictures, but the difference is very visible.
Drastic, yeah.
Valeu, galera.
It was shiny.
Falou.
So be glad to be back to his normal self.
So you can see this is we have